commentary from me to make. Since Dr. Radhakrishnan implies that the impersonal Brahman alone possesses such transcendental qualities as being inexhaustible, imperishable, and unborn, we must turn to the Gita for a proper reply. In truth, all the divine expansions of the non-dual Supreme Being are endowed with these same super excellent qualities. As Arjuna declares in the Bhagavad Gita 11:18, Tvam aksharam paramam veditavyam tvam asya vishvasya param nidhanam tvam avyaya shashvata dharma gupta sanatanas tvam purushomato me, which means you are the supreme primeval objective. You are the ultimate resting place of all this universe. You are inexhaustible, and you are the oldest. You are the maintainer of the eternal religion, the personality of Godhead. This is my opinion. We should understand that those passages in the Gita which describe Parabrahman as Akshara, or indestructible, are references to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Controller Godhead. Not once is Lord Krishna equated with the Akshara, the conditioned jivas. Not only big philosophers like Dr. Radhakrishna, but even mighty demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Indra are in the category of Akshara. The Lord maintains the entire cosmic manifestation merely by his separated energy, just as fire, though situated in one place, spreads its light and heat in all directions. So, the unborn Supreme Lord Krishna, while maintaining his full personality, eternality, and imperishability, expands himself into countless Vishnu forms, jivas, and internal and external potencies. Expanding himself in this way never diminishes or in any way affects his status as the absolute whole. As the Ishopad invocation declares, Punasha Punam Adaya Punam Eva Vashishyate. Whatever is produced by the complete whole is also complete in itself, because he is the complete whole. Even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. The Lord is the eternal Supreme Person, and therefore his name, form, qualities, pastimes, and so on are eternal. The Sanskrit word Purusha means enjoyer. An enjoyer can never be a formless, impersonal, impotent being. Certainly Lord Krishna is without material qualities, yet he is the enjoyer and possessor of all spiritual qualities. In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna glorifies Lord Krishna as Akshara, Parabrahman, and Adideva, the original personality of Godhead. Dr. Radhakrishnan writes that the term Akshara, which means inexhaustible, is synonymous with the word Avyaya, which means without deterioration. Therefore, why does he conclude that Lord Krishna and his body are different? This we fail to understand. On page 275, Dr. Radhakrishnan admits that Arjuna says Lord Krishna is Parabrahman, Bhagavan, the absolute truth. In the same book and on the same page, he writes something quite incoherent and fictitious and attributes it to Arjuna. Quote, Arjuna states that the Supreme Sri Krishna is both Brahman and Ishvara, absolute and God, unquote. If Dr. Radhakrishnan possesses such a sketchy and incorrect perception of the Gita that he thinks Bhagavan is different from Brahman, then how can he claim to have read the Gita? He argues that Bhagavan and Super Soul Krishna are products of Maya, while Brahman is not. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has severely criticized such speculative philosophy. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita he writes, not knowing that Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan are all features of Krishna, foolish scholars speculate in various ways. we accept both Arjuna and Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami as greater authorities than Dr. Radhakrishnan. Arjuna directly heard the Bhagavad Gita, and the President of India, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, has accepted Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita as an authentic and authoritative scripture. Those who try to understand the Bhagavad Gita by receiving it from one in the disciplic succession coming down from Arjuna can actually understand its esoteric knowledge. Others fail miserably. It is imperative that one attentively hear what the Bhagavad Gita and other authorized scriptures have to say about the impersonal Brahman. The scriptures amply prove that the impersonal Brahman is the Supreme Lord's bodily effulgence, just as sunshine is the brilliant emanation from the sun. Furthermore, as the sun's rays are dependent on and subservient to the sun, so the impersonal Brahmajyoti effulgence, Lord Krishna's bodily luster, is dependent on and subservient to the Lord. In the Gita 14:27 he says, Brahmanohi pratishtaham amritasya yeshcha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukhasya kantikasya cha. And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. The Lord's statements in the Gita concerning the impersonal Brahman are unequivocal. Yet Dr. Radhakrishnan seems unsatisfied with them. He grudgingly translates text 27 of the 14th chapter, quote, "For I am the abode of Brahman, the immortal and the imperishable, of eternal law and of absolute bliss," unquote. Since Lord Krishna is the basis of the impersonal formless Brahman, he is certainly far superior to it. The mosquito net is inside the house, not the other way around. The ink pot is on the table, not vice versa. Even a small boy can grasp this. Then why does Dr. Radhakrishnan hesitate to accept this truth? There are countless proofs in the scripture of Lord Krishna's supreme absolute personality. But Dr. Radhakrishnan is like an owl in the daylight of truths. He tries to cover the sun of truth by creating a dark cloud of word jugglery. Thus, instead of truth and knowledge, confusion is paraded before the world. We strongly condemn this sort of activity. Whether directly or indirectly, Dr. Radhakrishnan has tried to circumvent the truth that Lord Krishna is the basis of Brahman, and in the process he has been defeated. If Dr. Radhakrishnan really accepts Lord Krishna as the absolute God, then what inspired him to see another being within Krishna and to write, "It is not the personal Krishna to whom we must give ourselves up"? The truth is that only those who have been blessed by the Lord can fathom the spiritual science dealing with God. Dr. Radhakrishnan's book irrefutably proves this. The Mayavadi philosophers are big offenders to the Supreme Lord, and therefore he never manifests himself to them. As the Lord himself declares in the Bhagavad Gita 7:25, "Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavrita mudha." I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my internal books. All previous spiritual authorities have condemned the Mayavadis, but Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has directly censured them, calling them the greatest offenders against the Supreme Lord. He said that if a person simply hears philosophy from a Mayavadi, his spiritual life is in jeopardy. In this connection, there's a little story Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati used to tell of a blind man. Now these stories are very instructive, and they seem very simple, but when understood from a Shastric point of view, then many profound truths appear in them. So, there was a blind man. Now in this material world, all of us are blind. So this blind man was desiring to go to the house of his father-in-law, visit with his relatives. So he was going along the path with his walking stick and trying to feel his way along. But the going was very difficult. So he happened to hear in the field nearby one cowherd boy, one young man who had a herd of cows. This cowherd boy was singing some song. So then he called the cowherd boy, "My dear boy, I'm trying to go to my father-in-law's house." So he mentioned the name, and the cowherd boy knew who the father-in-law was and where he lived. And the blind man said, "So can you kindly help me? Perhaps you could just lead me to that place." And the cowherd boy said, "Well, I'm very sorry. Here I have a whole herd of cows. And if I go away, then they'll wander off and get lost. But I tell you what, I happen to have here one cow who has a calf at your father-in-law's house. So out of motherly affection for her calf, if I let this cow go, she will automatically walk to that house. So you just take her tail and follow behind." So he handed the tail to the blind man. The blind man grasped it, and the cow was not very appreciative that someone was holding her tail, so she began to run at a very good speed, dragging the blind man behind him. And she purposely ran through the heavy bushes, the thorny plants, and over the rough ground. And along the way, she would give him some very hard kicks in the head, too. So by the time the cow arrived at the house, this poor blind man had been stripped naked. He had not one piece of cloth on his body anymore, and his body instead was covered with dirt and scratches and blood. And he was practically delirious from pain. So the cow came up to the house, and the poor blind man was dragging behind. And then the servants of the house, they came out and they saw this scene, and they could not recognize the blind man as their relative. They thought, he's a cow thief. So they gave him a good beating and drove him out. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati used to tell this story to illustrate the danger of one who is blind, meaning any conditioned soul, the danger of accepting a so-called spiritual master or guru who is not competent to present the absolute truth in the parampara cyclic succession. So that specifically means all the Mayavadis. As Prabhupada would say, these Mayavadis, they actually have their own philosophy. They're not teaching Bhagavad Gita philosophy. They're in no way teaching anything which can be remotely called Vedic philosophy. Because one thing, Vedic philosophy is based on the principle of spiritual sound vibration. You see, this is the basis. You take any Vedic text, the basis of it is known as Shabda Brahman. It is a spiritual sound. And therefore, if we receive this spiritual sound from proper authority, then this sound vibration itself causes knowledge to appear in the heart. Because the sound vibration, because the point is, knowledge is already there in the heart. Because we are in the heart. We who are spirit soul, whom Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita as the jnani, the knower. Amritam jnanetena jnaninas nityavairanam. Krishna says, that jnani, that knower in the heart, his knowledge has been covered by illusion in the form of lust. So therefore he is in ignorance because of that covering. So this Vedic sound vibration, this potent spiritual sound, what it does is, when it is received properly in parampara, it cuts through that covering of lust. And then the inner knowledge is revealed. So, Vedic philosophy then, you see, it means that it is coming from the transcendental platform. That sound is not from this world, therefore it's called apaurushaya, which means it's not a sound created by some human beings here. As, for instance, the newspaper. The newspaper is cooked up by some human beings. Therefore, reading that newspaper, although people read it every day, it is completely worthless from the point of view of transcendental knowledge. But the Vedic scriptures are actually the transmission or the news broadcast from the spiritual world, from the eternal spiritual world. And that sound vibration is not different from that transcendental news being broadcast, or the subject matter itself. I was saying, was it last night? Anyway, there's that verse which says, Vaikuntha Vacha, Gunarnavani. Vacha, speech, Vaikuntha means the spiritual world. Gunarnavani, the quality. So this Vedic speech or Vedic message, it has the quality of Vaikuntha. By receiving it in our hearts, we receive actually Vaikuntha into our heart. So the point is that it is understood in Vedic philosophy that there is an absolute realm of absolute sound, and this sound is conveying form and quality and personality and activity. But the Mayavadis, what is their conception of the absolute truth? There's no form. There's no quality. There's no activity. There's no personality. And ultimately, there's no sound. There's no such thing for a Mayavadi as Shabda Brahman, spiritual sound. I'm sure you've all met these mini Mayavadis you meet today who've received the truth from some paperback book they bought in some esoteric bookshop. So when you get into discussion with these kind of fellows, and you back them into a corner, then they say, anyway, it's just words. They try to avoid the whole issue by just saying, in any case, it's just words. Words have no value. So this has nothing to do with Vedic philosophy. And moreover, in the Vedas, of course, Dharman tu shakshat bhagavat pranitam. From where do these words, or this dharma, this knowledge of the proper duty of human being, which is given in the Vedas, from where does it come? It comes from Bhagavan, Sri Krishna. The Mayavadis have nothing. They want nothing to do with any Bhagavan, any supreme personality of Godhead, who's the possessor of all opulences. Their attraction is to actually void conception. So indeed, the Mayavadis are not only anti-Krishna, but they're anti-Vedic. It is said, Mayavadam asat shastra. Mayavadi philosophy goes against the Shastra, asat shastra. Prachanam bhaudam uchyate. It is actually just Buddhism. Lord Buddha, although he's the incarnation of Krishna, of course, but he came on a special mission. He decried the Vedas. He told his followers, do not read the Vedas, because they were not intelligent enough to understand the Vedas. So anyway, he said, don't read the Vedas. They have no value. Just listen to me. So Dharman tu shaksha bhagavat pranitam. He said, don't listen to the Vedas, which is the sound vibration of the Supreme Lord, but He is the Lord. And so He taught them. So in that way, they were hearing Veda, at least in part. Kind of Veda for kindergarten children. So, anyway, they're Buddhists, actually. They're not followers of Vedic Dharma at all. So, they're not qualified to teach Vedic literature. They have their own philosophy. But as Srila Prabhupada used to say, they know very well that Krishna is a big gun. This is Prabhupada's phrase. Krishna is a big gun. So his book, the Bhagavad Gita, is respected all over the world. So these puny little Mayavadis, and their very uninteresting and dry philosophy, will not go very far alone. So therefore they like to hitch themselves up, hook themselves up to Krishna. You see. And this Prabhupada said is the policy of smoking marijuana using somebody else's hand. You see. There's a person who wants to smoke marijuana, but he's afraid that when the police come, they will investigate and check everyone's hand, who's been holding the marijuana cigarette. So they say to a friend, "Can I borrow your hand, please?" And then they put the cigarette between his fingers and smoke that. And then when the police come, they arrest the other fellow. So, like that, the Mayavadis, they want to use Krishna's hand or Krishna's book to propagate their own illegal philosophy, Mayavadi philosophy. And then when they're caught, "Oh, you're teaching this nonsense," just like it happened. This Vivekananda, famous Mayavadi, he went to Chicago in 1897, whatever it was, at this World Conference of Religions. And he was a big sensation because he was a Hindu Swami, the first one who would ever come to the West. But he was unfortunately Mayavadi. And so he got up on the podium and he challenged everyone there. "You've come to talk about God, to talk about worship of God, but why? Why do you worship of God? Worship God? Don't you know that you are all God? We are all God." So people, the Western priests, the Christians, they were outraged. They'd never heard this philosophy before. It was something new to them. So there was much turmoil in the audience. What is he saying that we're all God for? And so they were accusing him. But then he would say, his reply was, "But this is not me speaking. This is the eternal message of Veda, of Gita." But it is not. So this is the example, using someone else's hand to smoke the marijuana. So, I said I wouldn't make comments, but sometimes I lose control of my senses. So, I'll try to continue. As quoted in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 17, 129 to 132, and 134 and 135, the Lord speaks about the Mayavadis in this way. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "Mayavadi impersonalists are great offenders unto Lord Krishna. Therefore they simply utter the words Brahman, Atma, and Chaitanya. The holy name of Krishna is not manifest in their mouths because they are offenders unto Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is identical with his holy name. The Lord's holy name, his form, and his personality are all one and the same. There's no difference between them. Since all of them are absolute, they are transcendently blissful. There is no difference between Krishna's body and himself, or between his name and himself. As far as the conditioned soul is concerned, everything is different. One's name is different from the body, from one's original form, and so on. The holy name of Krishna, his body, and his pastimes cannot be understood by blunt material senses. They are manifest independently. The holy name of Krishna, his transcendental qualities and pastimes, as well as Lord Krishna himself, are all equal. They are all spiritual and full of bliss. The Mayavadis try to imitate Sripad Shankaracharya, pretending to be orthodox. They reject the truth that the jiva is part and parcel of Parabrahman, the Supreme Lord. They also deny the fact that it is only the part and parcel aspect of Parabrahman, the jiva, and not Parabrahman himself, who falls under the spell of Maya. And worst of all, they deny that Parabrahman is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to their lopsided argument, when the jiva attains mukti, liberation, he merges into the impersonal Brahman and loses his individual identity. By this logic, when the Supreme Lord, the Parabrahman, incarnates in this material world or appears in the deity form, he becomes an ordinary jiva. Thus the foolish Mayavadis draw a distinction between the Lord and his form, and in this way they commit great offenses against him. So, by knocking a wedge between Lord Krishna and his form, Dr. Radhakrishnan has demonstrated his lack of intelligence. Indeed, Maya has robbed him of intelligence, and according to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is the worst offender. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord describes such offenders as mudas, which means ass. Remember that Dr. Radhakrishnan is the Vice President of India. This is where Prabhupada came to America. Because they ascribe human frailties and faults to the Supreme Lord. Today, the world has become a hell because of an excess of atheists, and this is due only to the preaching of Mayavadi philosophy by enemies of the Supreme Lord. Lord Chaitanya's mission is to save the jivas from the clutches of these offenders. Those who are unconcerned about this mission commit offenses against Lord Chaitanya. The Mayavadis try hard to look like spiritualists, but in fact, they are gross materialists. They may be able to confuse and mesmerize the public with word jugglery, but in truth, their so-called renunciation is as false as the monkeys, for they have become mere beggars looking for distinction, adoration, position, and wealth. They are busy only with worldly progress. Forgotten are the spiritual message and spiritual goals and ideals. The Srimad Bhagavatam 112 has defined such show-bottle religion as kaitava dharma, cheating religion. Those who are attracted to such cheating religious groups are themselves deceitful. Their show of spirituality is abominable. They have no desire for either liberation or devotion and surrender. They are addicted to speculation and can never understand Krishna. When the Mayavadis pretend to perform kirtan or hold discourses on the Bhagavatam for personal name and fame, they may sing and talk about Brahman, Chaitanya, and Paramatma, but they cannot utter Lord Krishna's name. Although the words Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, appear throughout the Bhagavad Gita, the Mayavadis are prepared to say everything else except the name of Krishna. It is a well-known scriptural truth that the words Brahman and Paramatma refer ultimately to Lord Krishna, and that Krishna is the supreme name of the Supreme Absolute Person. But even when the Mayavadis chant such names of God as Krishna, Govinda, or Hari, they do so not with the understanding and faith that these names are God's principal names, and that they are non-different from the Supreme Lord, but rather with the idea that chanting them is a temporary means of sadhana or spiritual practice. They also do not admit that such chanting of the holy name is an offense. Of course, their biggest offense is to distinguish between Lord Krishna and his form. Thus in the Gita 9:11, Lord Krishna himself condemns these offenders. Avajananti mamudha manushim tanam param bhavam ajananto mama bhutva maheshvara. Fools deride me when I descend into human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be. Now this is also a very interesting point that Srila Prabhupada is making. That the Mayavadis, they try to imitate Sripad Shankaracharya. Now Shankaracharya mentioned just a moment ago about Buddhism. So Buddhism spread in India as a reaction to the degraded practice of offering Vedic sacrifice, killing animals and offering them to the fire. Now this is prescribed in certain Vedic rituals, but it is only to be done by highly qualified brahmanas who actually have great spiritual power. And although the animal is killed, the soul of that animal is promoted by the power of the chanting of mantra. The soul of the animal is perhaps promoted to the heavenly planet, where he enjoys that soul. Although he would not have normally gone there, he can enjoy in heaven for a good long time. And at other times, the animal was brought back to life. As Srila Prabhupada explained, it was done as a sort of experiment to increase everyone's faith in the Vedic science, just as today scientists, they perform experiments to demonstrate the truth of their theories. When the experiment turns out as predicted by the theory, and then it is proclaimed in all the newspapers that, aha, just see, this speculation turns out to be true. And the scientists get the Nobel Prize. Isn't it true? Yes. You can verify comments about science. So the experiment is meant to demonstrate and increase everyone's faith in scientific theories. So similarly, in the time of Vedic culture, Vedic science, these animal sacrifices were performed also as means of yajna and so on. These are forbidden because there are no qualified brahmanas. But in any case, out of some wrong sense of tradition, keeping the old ways, and also a desire to enjoy the eating of flesh, slaughtered animal flesh, the Brahmanas continued in the first 2,000 years or so of Kali Yuga. They continued with these Vedic sacrifices, and it just became slaughterhouse in the name of yajna. So Lord Buddha, Krishna himself, appeared to stop this. This is why he decried the Vedas. So Prabhupada once said that Lord Buddha came, actually his mission was to establish the four regulative principles as being the real foundation of spiritual advancement. This is the one thing about Buddhism that we can respect, that is actually part and parcel of Vaishnava Dharma, the following of four regulative principles. Of course, nowadays, most Buddhists don't follow the four regulative principles. And Buddha himself, in some shastra, he predicted this. He said in the future, ghosts and demons are going to take birth as Buddhists. And they will say that I said it's all right to eat animal flesh. So he warned about this. So anyway, it has come to pass. So then, the four regulative principles were in that way established in India as being the basis of spiritual advancement. So then Shankaracharya, who was Lord Shiva, he appeared to bring back the people to the study of the Vedas. So he taught this Mayavadi philosophy. And so his point actually, his real purpose was to, besides getting people to again take up the Vedic path, was to point out that the true goal of the Vedas is liberation from this material world, not anything else. Because the Vedas have been for so long misinterpreted and people were screwing out all sorts of meanings as to what the Vedas are supposed to teach us. So he said everything else he said everything else is just illusion. Any other message, karma kanda, or anything else that you may find in the Vedas, it is just illusion. The real point is moksha, mukti, liberation. So that's the threshold of spiritual life. And Shankaracharya, he and his disciples, his own disciples, they set a very ideal example of the life of liberation. They were strict sannyasis. In fact, Shankaracharya's policy was that if you want to learn from me as my disciple, then first thing you take sannyas. First thing you give up wife and home and children, because this is required in order to walk the path of liberation. So Shankaracharya and his followers were very, very austere. Now these Mayavadis today, Srila Prabhupada pointed out, they simply imitate Shankaracharya by mouthing his philosophy, although actually they don't even know his philosophy. His philosophy is so difficult because he is Lord Shiva. So his philosophical explanations are so difficult to understand that people nowadays, they just water it down to some very trite and easy slogans. We're all one. You see, you are God, I am God. Like this, very simple statements. And moreover, they have no austerity. In fact, they have twisted Shankara's philosophy of illusion, because Shankaracharya said this world of name and form is illusion. So they have twisted it to come to the conclusion that, yes, no matter what you do in this world, it is Maya. So if you control your senses, that is also Maya. So whether you enjoy your senses, whether you're eating meat, drinking wine, or refraining from eating meat, drinking wine, illicit sex, all these things, doesn't matter. It's the same material existence, the same name, form, illusion. So only by some mental speculation can you come to liberation. So this is all bogus. And then Prabhupada says, we read here that he said that these Mayavadis, they may, generally they're not attracted to take the name of Krishna, but sometimes they do. But Srila Prabhupada says, but they never have the correct understanding, and their chanting is always offensive. Now the reason that they take to the name, chanting the name of Krishna, is that it might afford them, as Prabhupada pointed out, all they want to do is expand their influence, their prestige, their power in society, get more followers. So it might be an advantage for them to chant Hare Krishna mantra, to attract some attention to themselves. So there are some big, in India today, some big Mayavadi Pandits who are known for their kirtan. I don't even want to mention who they are. Also one famous incarnation of God in South India. He's very well known for his kirtan. Now this kind of kirtan, there's a story, another story to illustrate what this sort of kirtan is all about. And so there was a landowner, wealthy landowner, in whose family, for many generations, the deity, family deity, had been Shalagram Shiva. So this landowner, when the family pujari got too old to continue with the worship, then he hired a new pujari, professional priest, and he employed that priest in worshiping Shalagram. But this priest was a very bad character. So this priest was only looking for some way to enjoy his senses at every turn. So the landowner, he was fond of one of the traditional offerings, because on that land there were chestnut trees. So he was fond of gathering chestnuts and bringing them to the priest and having the priest offer the chestnuts to Lord Shalagram. And then the priest would come out with the chestnut prasadam, the nuts, and distribute them to the landowner and his family. So he brought a nice bag of chestnuts, and the priest very gladly took them and went onto the altar and closed the door to make the offering. And the family was standing outside, and they were thinking that, yes, an act of pure devotion is going on behind these doors, and soon we will get our Mahaprasad. But if they could only see what was happening. What was happening is that the priest was putting the nuts out on the marble of the altar and taking the Shalagram stone and cracking open the nuts with the stone. And then throwing the nuts down his own throat and chewing them and enjoying them. And then making sure a few would be left over for the family. And then coming out and very piously presenting here to our Mahaprasad. So this story is to illustrate that type of devotional service as done by Mayavadis who chant the name of Krishna in great ecstasy. But it's simply aimed at their own sense gratification. They're actually abusing the holy name of the Lord, which is non-different from Krishna. So it can be compared to taking Shalagram Shila and using it as a nutcracker. So again, I lost control of my senses. We shall try to continue. Let us study how Dr. Radhakrishnan has translated this verse, which we just read, Avajananti Mamudha, which appears on page 242 of his book. Quote, "The deluded despise me clad in human body, not knowing my higher nature as Lord of all existences," unquote. In other words, when the person who is Lord of all existences is clad in human body, those who see from a materialistic perspective take him for an ordinary mortal, while those who see from a spiritual perspective understand that he is the supreme being, the cause of all causes. So if the deluded who despise Lord Krishna, so if it is the deluded who despise Lord Krishna, then is it not time for Dr. Radhakrishnan himself to admit that he is guilty of this crime? Prabhupada is so expert in polemics. He's using Dr. Radhakrishnan's own words to defeat him. Let him realize how he has abused the Lord of all existences, equating him with a mere mortal. When we see such big scholars are inimical towards Lord Krishna, we can conclude, following the Gita, that their intelligence has been stolen by Maya. All the previous spiritual authorities have accepted Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even Sripad Shankaracharya has accepted this truth. Yet Dr. Radhakrishnan is so deluded that he considers Lord Krishna an ordinary jiva, or perhaps an extraordinary. So I'll stop here. This book will continue in the same place and go on to now I'll read the chapter called "The Breaking of the Bow in the Sacrificial Arena." As you recall, yesterday we read how Lord Krishna entered Mathura city and had an interesting pastime with one washerman, which left the washerman with a very close haircut. And also the Lord exchanged loving relationship with two devotees, a flower seller and a tiddler. After leaving the florist's place, Krishna and Balaram saw a hunchback young woman carrying a dish of sandalwood pulp through the streets. Since Krishna is the reservoir of all pleasure, he wanted to make all his companions joyous by cutting a joke with the hunchbacked woman. Krishna addressed her, "O tall young woman, who are you? Tell me, for whom are you carrying this sandalwood pulp in your hand? I think you should offer the sandalwoods to me, and if you do so, I am sure you will be fortunate." Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he knew everything about the hunchback. By his inquiry, he indicated that there was no use in serving a demon. One had better serve Krishna and Balaram and get rid of the result of sins. The woman replied to Krishna, "My dear Shyam Sundar, dear beautiful dark boy, you may know that I am engaged as maidservant of Kamsa. I am supplying him pulp of sandalwood daily. The king is very pleased with me for supplying this nice thing, but now I see that there is no one who can be better served by this pulp of sandalwood than you two brothers." Being captivated by the beautiful features of Krishna and Balaram, they're talking, they're smiling, they're glancing and other activities, the hunchback woman began to smear the pulp of sandalwood over their bodies with great satisfaction and devotion. The two transcendental beggars, Krishna and Balaram, were naturally beautiful and had beautiful complexions, and they were nicely dressed in colorful garments. The upper portions of their bodies were already very attractive, and when the hunchback woman smeared their bodies with sandalwood pulp, they looked even more beautiful. Krishna was very pleased by this service, and he began to consider how to reward her. In other words, in order to draw the attention of the Lord, the Krishna-conscious devotee has to serve him in great love and devotion. Krishna cannot be pleased by any action other than transcendental loving service unto him. Thinking like this, Lord Krishna pressed the feet of the hunchback woman with his toes, and capturing her cheeks with his fingers, gave her a jerk in order to make her straight. At once, the hunchback woman looked like a beautiful straight girl with broad hips, thin waist, and very nice, well-shaped breasts. Since Krishna was pleased with the service of the hunchback woman, and since she was touched by Krishna's hands, she became the most beautiful girl among women. This incident shows that by serving Krishna, the devotee immediately becomes elevated to the most exalted position. In all respects, devotional service is so potent that anyone who takes to it becomes qualified with all godly qualities. Krishna was attracted to the hunchback woman not for her beauty, but for her service. As soon as she rendered service, she immediately became the most beautiful woman. A Krishna-conscious person does not have to be qualified or beautiful. After becoming Krishna-conscious and rendering service unto Krishna, he becomes very qualified in beauty. When the woman was turned by Krishna's favor into an exquisitely beautiful young girl, she naturally felt very much obliged to Krishna, and she was also attracted by his beauty. Without hesitation, she caught the rear part of his cloth and began to snatch it. She smiled flirtatiously and admitted that she was agitated by lusty desires. She forgot that she was on the street and before the elder brother of Krishna and his friends. She frankly proposed to Krishna, "My dear hero, I cannot leave you in this way. You must come to my place. I am already very much attracted to your beauty, and so I must receive you well, for you are the best among males. You must also be very kind upon me." In plain words, she proposed that Krishna come to her home and satisfy her lusty desires. Krishna, of course, felt a bit embarrassed in front of his older brother Balaram, but he knew that the girl was simple and attractive. Therefore, he simply smiled at her words. Looking towards his coward boyfriends, he replied to the girl, "My dear beautiful girl, I am very much pleased by your invitation, and I must come to your home after finishing my other business here. Such a beautiful girl like you is the only means of solace for a person like me, for I am away from home and not married. Certainly, as a suitable girlfriend, you can give us relief from all kinds of mental agitation." Krishna satisfied the girl in this way with sweet words. Leaving her there, Krishna began to proceed down the streets of the marketplace, where the citizens were prepared to receive him with various kinds of presentations, especially betel nuts, flowers, and sandalwood. The mercantile men in the market worshipped Krishna and Balaram with great respect. When Krishna was passing through the street, all the women in the surrounding houses came to see him, and some of the younger ones almost fainted, being captivated by his beauty. Their hair and tight dresses loosened, and they forgot where they were standing. Krishna next inquired from the citizens as to the location of the place of sacrifice. Kamsa had arranged for the sacrifice called Dhanu Yajna, and to designate this particular sacrifice, he had placed a big bow near the sacrificial altar. The bow was very big and wonderful and resembled the rainbow in the sky. Within the sacrificial arena, this bow was protected by many constables and watchmen engaged by King Kamsa. As Krishna and Balaram approached the bow, they were warned not to go nearer, but Krishna ignored this warning. He forcibly went up and immediately took the big bow in his left hand. After stringing the bow in the presence of the crowd, he drew it and broke it at the middle into two parts, exactly as an elephant breaks sugar cane in the field. Everyone present appreciated Krishna's power. The sound of the bow cracking filled both the sky and land and was heard by Kamsa. So, what other incarnation of the Lord has performed this pastime? When Kamsa heard what had happened, he began to fear for his very life. The caretaker of the bow was standing by watching. became very angry. He ordered his men to take up weapons, and he began to rush towards Krishna, shouting, "Arrest him! Kill him! Kill him!" Krishna and Balaram were surrounded. When they saw the threatening motions of the guards, they became angry, and taking up 2 pieces of the broken bow, they began to beat off all the caretaker's men. While this turmoil was going on, Kamsa sent a small group of troops to assist the caretakers. Both Krishna and Balaram fought with them also and killed them. After this, Krishna did not proceed further into the sacrificial arena, but went out the gate and proceeded toward their resting camp. Along the way, he visited various places in Mathura city with great delight, seeing the activities and wonderful prowess of Krishna. All the citizens of Mathura began to consider the 2 brothers to be demigods who had come down to Mathura, and they all looked upon them with great astonishment. The 2 brothers strolled carefree in the streets, not caring for the law and order of Kamsa. When evening came, Krishna and Balaram, with their coward boyfriends, went to the outskirts of the city where all their cars were assembled. Thus Krishna and Balaram gave some preliminary hints of their arrival to Kamsa, and he could understand what severe type of danger was awaiting him the next day in the sacrificial arena. When Krishna and Balaram were going from Vrindavan to Mathura, the inhabitants of Vrindavan had imagined the great fortune of the citizens of Mathura, being able to see the wonderful beauty of Krishna, who is worshipped by his pure devotees as well as by the goddess of fortune. The fantasies of the residents of Vrindavan were actually realized, for the citizens of Mathura became fully satisfied by seeing him. So this is a very nice look at the psychology of the simple devotees of Krishna in Vrindavan. There we're talking among themselves that when our dear Krishna comes in to Mathura city, they're viewing Mathura city just as perhaps the people of Krsna look at Stockholm, it's a big city, and we go there, once every year, and we become amazed at the big buildings. So they were a bit overawed by Mathura. The residents of Mathura, probably when they had gone to Mathura in the past, the sophisticated residents had perhaps chuckled among themselves. Oh, here comes these simple villagers. Oh, look at them. Look at the way they dress. Ha, ha, ha. So, but now they had been talking among themselves. Just wait until our Krishna goes there. He'll show those city people. And so indeed, when Krishna came into the city, all the residents of Mathura, they were astonished. They were amazed at Krishna's beauty and his power and his glory. And Krishna has pointed out that he didn't care at all for the law and order of that city. When Krishna returned to his camp, he was taken care of by servants who washed his lotus feet, gave him a nice seat and offered him milk and palatable dishes of foodstuffs. After taking supper and thinking of the next day's program, he very peacefully began to take rest. Thus he passed the night there. On the other side, when Kamsa came to understand about the breaking of his wonderful bow and the killing of the caretaker and soldiers by Krishna, he could partially realize the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He could realize that the 8th son of Devaki had appeared and that now his death was imminent. Thinking of his imminent death, he could not rest the entire night. He began to have many inauspicious visions, and he could understand that both Krishna and Balaram, who had approached the precincts of the city, were his messengers of death. Kamsa began to see various kinds of inauspicious signs, both awake and dreaming. When he looked in the mirror, he could not see his head, although the head was actually present. He could see the luminaries in the sky in double, although there was only one set factually. He began to see holes in his shadow, and he could hear a high buzzing sound within his ears. All the trees before him appeared to be made of gold, and he could not see his own footprints in dust or muddy clay. In dream, he saw various kinds of ghosts being drawn in a carriage drawn by donkeys. He also dreamed that someone gave him poison and he was drinking it. He dreamed also that he was going naked with a garland of flowers and was smearing oil all over his body. Thus, as Kamsa saw various signs of death, both awake and sleeping, he could understand that death was certain, and thus in great anxiety he could not rest that night. Just after the night expired, he busily arranged for the wrestling match. wrestling arena was nicely cleansed and decorated with flags, festoons, and flowers. And the match was announced by the beating of kettle drums. The platform appeared very beautiful due to streamers and flags. Different types of galleries were arranged for respectable persons, kings, brahmanas, and kshatriyas. The various kings had reserved thrones, and others had arranged seats also. Kamsa finally arrived, accompanied by various ministers and secretaries, and they sat on the raised platform especially meant for him. Unfortunately, although he was sitting at the center of all governing executive heads, his heart was palpitating in fear of death. Cruel death evidently does not care even for a person as powerful as Kamsa. When death comes, it does not care for anyone's exalted position. When everything was complete, the wrestlers who were to exhibit their skills before the assembly walked into the arena. They were decorated with bright ornaments and dress. Some of the famous wrestlers were Chanura, Mushtika, Shala, Kutta, and Tosha. Being enlivened by the musical concert, they passed through with great alacrity. All the respectable cowherd men who came from Vrindavan headed by Nanda were also welcomed by Kamsa. After presenting Kamsa with the milk products that they had brought with them, the cowherd men also took their respective seats by the side of the king on a platform especially meant for them. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the second volume, 7th chapter of Krsna, the breaking of the bow in the sacrificial arena.